give you four things about being on mission. Ahaz was supposed to be on mission. He wasn't. So if you're a believer, you name the name of Christ, and you're going to be on mission, let me give you the four things you've got to understand. First of all missionaries have to leave something behind. You know, I've heard the stories of missionaries. Some of you have been missionaries or missionary kids, and you've known when you're going overseas, going to the land that God has selected for you, you can't take everything. It is a time when you look at your house and you say, the only things we can have shipped over here are this. Maybe the only things we can take are what we can strap to our back and put in a suitcase. When you're on mission, you have to leave something behind. May I tell you something, believer? If you're going to be on mission, you're going to have to leave something behind. It could be your past. Everybody has a past. It's just some people's past are a little closer than others, you know. We all have one. But maybe it's time for you to leave it behind, because your future is not dependent on your past. It's dependent on the decision today. Leave it behind. It's not worth carrying it with you. Oh, and here's the other thing. If you're going to leave something behind, it might be the former life that you've lived. Oh, isn't there a pull? Isn't there a pull to that former life sometimes? But God says, if you're going to walk with me, if you're going to be on mission for me, you need to leave the former life behind, or maybe the bondage that's there. The bondage. Jesus Christ came to set you free. But some of us are like the Israelites. In the midst of the daily struggles of life, we say, oh my goodness, I thought this Christian life was going to be a piece of cake. I thought I wouldn't have any more problems. I've listened to the health and wealth gospel, and I'm supposed to be rich and healthy and have a new car. I'm supposed to have all these things. And I'm telling you what, it seems to be harder now that I became a Christian than it was before. And like the Israelites who said, oh, why did you bring us out to this desert? We could have had food to eat back there as slaves in bondage. Let me just appeal to you. If you're going to be on mission, if you're going to be a missionary, you're going to have to leave something behind. If not, you'll never be on mission. Let me give you the second thing. The second thing, if you're going to be on mission, you must learn something new. Every missionary has to learn the new customs of where they're going. The people don't want to see their customs. They want to see a missionary who learns their customs and understands how to communicate with them. They have to learn the language, if it's a different language than English or Southern English. You're going to have to learn the language. Now, if you're going to be on mission with God, you may have to learn something new, and that comes through discipleship. You're going to have to learn how to, as Ahaz didn't, to stop and stand and be still, and let the calmness and the peace of God overflow you. You know, one of the things that we fail to do sometimes is just stop long enough to hear God, right? That we say, okay, God, I've got something in the microwave right now. By the time the dinger goes off, I'd like to know your will. You know, isn't that what we do? I want it now. You're going to have to learn something. That's discipleship. You may need to learn, if you're going to be on mission, how to share your testimony with somebody. Wow. Number 3, you're going to have to live something different. If you're going to be on mission with God, you're going to have to live something different. You know what? We don't send missionaries overseas so they can live like they want to. We want the people to see something different in them, something that makes them curious, something that is contagious, something that says, how can you live like this? What is it that brings you hope in the midst of turmoil? How can you do this? And in the midst of that, you have the opportunity to do something different. You can't be on mission and live the same. You have to live on mission for God and be supernatural. Oh, here's the last thing. This is it. If you're going to be on mission, you got to let someone know. You got to let somebody know. How could we keep this to ourselves? Really? Ahaz knew everything that it would give his people hope, purpose, and peace, but he never shared it with them. He kept sharing with them, keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. This is going to work out fine because we've got so many resources outside and away from and apart from God that it's all going to work out. He gave them false hope. He gave them false peace. You know, is that what you're giving to people around you? You know, the Christmas season is when people start thinking religious thoughts. Start thinking how to be different or what's going on. And wow, wouldn't it be a great opportunity for you to do that? And then ask yourself this: who needs the message? Who comes to your mind right now that needs this message that the King kept for himself? Oh my goodness. There is a child that was born. His name was Emmanuel, meaning God with us. In other words, God loved you so much that he came in human form to live on this earth, to show us how to live, to teach us how to live, to die on a cross, to be raised the third day so that he could conquer sin, death, and the grave. And he did that all for you. Isn't that a message that somebody needs? Who needs that message? Who do you know that needs that message? If you don't know anybody, ask God right now to give you, over the next week, somebody's name that needs that message. You say, Rob, I'm not sure how to do that. Then let me give you this. All you do is invite them to church. Get them to come with you. Get them to come with you. They will. I promise you. All right, now, let's end with this. Okay? You may have noticed this morning that I have a Yale sweatshirt on. Anybody notice that? Did you? Okay, thank you. This is, I love this sweatshirt. It is incredibly cozy. In fact, under this lights, it is way cozy. I'm just telling you right now that, you know, I'm glistening up here. It is way cozy. But you know what? If somebody came up to me and said, hey, Rob, that's a Yale sweatshirt. Yep, sure is. Are you alumni? No. Tourist. You're not an alumnus? No. Tourist. You see, I know everything about Yale. I've actually been there. I actually walked the halls. I went into their buildings. I sat in some of the chairs. I heard the history. I know the story, but I'm a tourist. I've heard about the great things that have been accomplished through that institution. I've heard of things that have happened there that just blew my mind, but I'm just a tourist. You see, no matter how many times I wear this sweatshirt, I've never made a commitment to Yale. Oh, I know how to get in. I've looked it up online. I know how much it costs. I know everything about what to do to get into Yale. But you see, I'm just a tourist. Some of you know everything about Jesus. You've heard the story. Hey, you know the history. You've walked into churches before. You've traveled their halls. You've heard the miraculous stories that have been told. This week, I was having lunch with somebody, and I began to recount the miracles in this church. And I did that because it's so powerful. The things that God has done. Hey, you've heard the stories. You've seen changed lives. But you see, you're just a tourist because you've never made the commitment. You've never signed on the dotted line with your life. And maybe today's the day when everything changes. Maybe one day, hey, who knows? Maybe one day Rob will put on this sweatshirt because he is committed to Yale and has a degree from Yale. But it's a whole lot easier for you to commit to Jesus Christ today than for that to ever happen in my life. Because God made it incredibly possible. Is there anything too big for God? No. And this moment is not too big.